Hey, it's me, Melanie Beran with JL Wyatt Properties, serving Pearland, Friendswood, and really the entire Southeast Houston area. I'm really glad to be here with you today, and we're going to talk about something that is super important and kind of unique to the Houston area: buying and selling during hurricane season. Now, if you're considering buying or selling in the Houston area, I sure do hope that you would go ahead and subscribe. Make sure that you're getting all the information that you need that's going to help you on your real estate journey. I release at least one video a week about real estate and the Southeast Houston area. I am proud to be a native here. It is my home, and I hope that you can make it your home as well. So today, we are going to talk about something that is super exciting to me: contracts. Specifically, what does the contract say about buying or selling during hurricane season or any other natural disaster? We had a freeze-pocalypse, right? So what does the contract say? It's really important when you're buying or selling a home that you're working with a real estate agent so that if these situations come up, you have somebody experienced and knowledgeable on your side to walk you through these steps. So without further ado, let's talk about casualty loss, paragraph 14 of the TREC 1-4 resale contract. That's the contract that you use to buy a house. Okay, so I'm going to do something I wouldn't normally do, which is actually read you a paragraph straight from the contract. So this is what it says about casualty loss. If any part of the property is damaged or destroyed by fire or other casualty after the effective date of this contract, seller shall restore the property to its previous condition as soon as reasonably possible. But in any event, by closing date, if the seller fails to do so due to factors beyond the seller's control, buyer may A, terminate the contract and earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. B, extend the time for performance up to 15 days and the closing date will be extended as necessary. Or C, accept the property in the damaged condition with an assignment for the insurance proceeds if permitted by the seller's insurance carrier, and receive credit from the seller at closing. The amount of the deductible under the insurance policy. Seller's obligations under this paragraph are independent of any other obligations of the seller under this contract. What does that mean? Let's go by it. If any part of the property is damaged or destroyed by fire or other casualty after the effective date of this contract, when you submit an offer and the seller accepts, that is the effective date. Okay, so when we talk about effective date, that's when you and the seller both signed and said, yes, we're doing this. This is about if something happens to the property after you have signed that contract, you and the seller both. So after the effective date, the seller shall restore the property to its previous condition as soon as reasonably possible, but in any event by the closing date. So if you're the buyer, you're covered. This is not your house yet. Okay, so the seller is required to restore the property to the previous condition as soon as reasonably possible or by closing date. If you're the seller, this may seem like a bummer, right? You feel like that you signed it, these people are buying the house, they haven't bought it yet. You are still the owner. So when something comes up like this, you as the owner of the home are going to be responsible for it. Buyer, the seller has to restore the property to its previous condition. Now, that doesn't mean they're going to upgrade everything along the way, right? They're going to restore it to its previous condition. Sellers, you're going to be the homeowner and you're going to restore it to the previous condition because the buyer agreed to buy it in that previous condition, not in its currently damaged state. Moving on. If the seller fails to do so due to factors beyond the seller's control. So we just had a freeze-pocalypse. Plumbers are backed up for weeks. We know that after a hurricane, contractors are backed up for weeks. So if the seller can't do this and is outside the seller's control, the buyer can terminate the contract and you'll get your earnest money back. This is one option, but you need to remember that you loved this house before. The seller is required to restore it to the condition it was in when you loved it, and that even though you will be refunded your earnest money, that you have lost your option money, you've lost your time, you've lost your inspection money. So you're going to need to decide. My job is not to tell you what to do. My job is to present the options. You would need to decide, would you want to give the seller more time? And we'll talk about your other options here about that. Would you want to do that, or do you just want to cut and run? If the seller can't fix the home to its previous condition due to things beyond their control, you have the opportunity to cut and run to get your earnest money back and to move on to something else. But again, we need to think about too, we know when there's hurricanes here, heaven forbid, every 5, 10, 15 years, a lot of homes are damaged. So that may also make it harder to find a different home that was not damaged, that you also love, and all those kinds of things, when all of these other buyers who were under contract may also be now trying to do the same thing. So it's just some things to consider there. But you do have the option A, to terminate the contract and the earnest money will be refunded to the buyer. So that's option A. Option B, extend the time for performance up to 15 days and the closing date will be extended as necessary. Basically, option A, cut and run. Option B, give the seller more time, up to 15 days, and to extend closing date. And basically, that's just everybody saying, listen, as a buyer, we still want this home, but we expect it to be fixed to its previous condition. As a seller, they're the homeowner. So as a seller, you have now been given extra time to not lose the sale completely and to complete the repairs as necessary. So option A, buyer has the right to leave the deal, get earnest money back. Option B, the buyer has the right to extend the closing date. Or C, accept the property in its damaged condition with an assignment of the insurance proceeds if permitted by the seller's insurance carrier and receive credit from the seller at closing in the amount of the deductible under the insurance policy. Basically, this one can get a lot more complicated because this one is now also going to involve the seller's insurance carrier. So basically, instead of the seller getting the insurance money to fix the home, the buyer gets the money to fix the home after the closing. Each of these has pros and cons. If you just want to cut out of this deal, you have the option to do that. You have the option to basically terminate the contract and earnest money refunded to the buyer. Option B, seller gets more time to fix the home. Okay, this is a home that maybe you loved as a buyer, you're ready to buy it, but you need it to be fixed. Or option C, you may have the right to, if the seller's insurance permits you to do so, you may have the right to just accept the home in the damaged condition and recover the insurance money from the insurance carrier and fix the home yourself. When you're buying or selling during hurricane season, during a freeze apocalypse, during all of the other wonderful, amazing weather conditions that the Houston area throws at us, Houston is my home sweet home, but goodness gracious, some days we've got some weather, don't we? But that's going to be buying and selling during hurricane season, during a freeze apocalypse, if there is a house fire, anything like that, when you're under contract, because we talked about it being after the effective date, right? So it's not that you extended an offer and the seller hasn't said yes yet. It's that you have both agreed to this contract, that's the effective date. There are some coverages in that short, sweet paragraph 14 of the TREC 1-4, residential home resale contract that lays out what is required of the buyer and what is required of the seller. As a matter of fact, this contract covers a whole lot of things. And that's one of the reasons that you want to work with a real estate agent. I'm happy to be that person, whether you're buying or selling. You want to work with somebody who knows these contracts, who's familiar with these contracts, because 9 times out of 10, when you don't know what to do, the answer is going to be refer to the contract. And so you want somebody familiar with these contracts. So I hope that's helpful. I'm not even going to lie to you. I'm a super nerd. I love policy. I love contracts. And I love being able to refer back to those contracts when questions arise, because every single real estate deal is a little bit different. Everyone does have a little bit of a different hiccup or road bump, and my job is to help smooth those out as much as possible. So I hope that this was helpful for you. If you have any other questions, make sure you leave them in the comments. I might go ahead and make another video about them. I'll definitely respond to you in the comments, but I want to know what you want to know about buying or selling a home in the Houston area. I hope something really great happens to you today.